Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode in our podcast series, Leaders of Supply Chain. I'm your host, Jaya Mittal. I head the Middle East and Africa practice for Alcott Global. Today, we have with us Ashish Sood, who's the Chief Supply Chain Officer of Landmark Retail. Ashish joined Landmark in 2021 and leads the supply chain across both their stores as well as the e-commerce business. In the past, Ashish has worked with both PepsiCo as well as Amazon. He's an engineer by profession and holds an MBA in operations and finance from India. Welcome, Ashish. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Jaya. Always a pleasure to speak to you. Doing great. The weather is great in Dubai today as well.
Yes, it has been raining incessantly in Singapore. And I must say that, Dubai sounds very pleasant when it comes to the weather. Ashish, I would like to start by asking you, what is your story? Why supply chain? And what brought you to the role that you are doing right now?
Yeah, actually, I had an opportunity to build a career in the area of sales and marketing with a very good company. However,
Mhm.
I still chose supply chain. And the reason is I'm talking about 20, 25 years back. Supply chain was significantly underinvested.
Mhm.
So there was a lot that could be done in supply chain from a technology, from a process, and even from a leadership growth and development perspective. So because it was the opportunity was so large, I chose supply chain.
Brilliant.
Um,
So tell us about, the supply chain function within Landmark. How did this opportunity come your way?
See, first of all, Landmark is a very respected organization, and it's one of the largest retail companies in this region. Company is very focused on doing the right long-term things for the customers, their employees, and all stakeholders.
Hmm.
So when this opportunity came up and Landmark reached out to me, I was very happy to interview for it because one of the premier retailers, and also the role was amazing. Like it included both retail and e-commerce,
Okay.
spanning across multiple countries, and an ability to look at both the strategy and the execution and a good mix of the two. So for that reason, the scale, the complexity, and the opportunity to do something really, really amazing is what attracted me to the role. And it's actually turned out, the promise has turned out true to that extent, what I was thinking of. And it's been a great experience for me. Now, the other question that you asked me is about landmark supply chain.
Yeah.
So let me share with you a few data points on what kind of supply chain we run.
Okay.
So we have about 8 million square feet of area that we operate.
Hmm.
We handle 300 million plus pieces on a yearly basis. We run the supply chain across 8 countries. There are overall more than 5,000, 6,000 people that work within our supply chain. We
Hmm.
run a fleet of more than 1,000 vehicles and truly and actually a very forward looking supply chain.
Hmm.
To that extent, just a few points to illustrate that we have one of the largest automated DCs that I have seen. And I'm talking
Okay.
of 25 years of experience. It would be one of the largest and most automated.
And you have
Uh,
worked with Amazon in the past. So you are saying that the landmark DCs are better run than the Amazon ones.
I won't compare the two companies. Both the business is very different, but in itself, it's one of the most automated DCs that I have seen and operated in.
All right.
So the scale, the number of pieces that we handle, the automation that we have, like goods come to the picker
Hmm.
rather than the picker going to the goods. The person is standing, the specific item comes to the picker and he can just pick it up from the tote and pass it on. It's got the highest high bay in the GCC region and completely automated, not a person inside the high bay area. So various, it's actually available on YouTube. And if anyone searches by the name of Landmark, Mega DC, Omega, any of these keywords, you will get to those videos, and it's really, really an automated one. Right now, also we are implementing robots in another DC,
Okay.
and that's a podcast for another time because right now it's in implementation. But we are really a very forward-looking supply chain, both from an automation standpoint, from a tech standpoint as well. We're doing a lot of work, which is really, really the cutting edge of tech, like digital twins, optimizers, simulators. A lot of work that's being done is really very, very path breaking.
Hmm.
We run it omni-channel. The same inventory is used to service both e-commerce and retail customers and
Okay.
seamless.
All right.
So, and both from a tech and supply chain perspective, it's right up there. We also run, by the way, a very successful third-party logistics company. So all the infrastructure, the process, the people, the technology, the automation that we've created, we don't only leverage it for Landmark. We offer it as a service to 3PL other companies as well. And we have a very select and a very satisfied, delighted set of customers whom we service with the same capability that we've built. So overall, this landmark supply chain is quite a fantastic supply chain. It's a pleasure to work in it and contribute to the same.
Amazing. So you are actually telling me that you've taken supply chain from a cost to actually a profitable venture for Landmark by offering services to others, which is fabulous. One of the things that I have seen is that you're truly passionate about the customer. We've engaged in the past, and I've always seen you bring customer at the heart of, the processes that you are running. So, can you share with us some of the stories of how you're bringing customers at the heart of the supply chain within the Landmark Group?
First, it starts with the vision. So
Mhm.
we set up a very bold vision for ourselves, and the vision that we set up is that every action, every activity in supply chain will be first customer backwards,
Okay.
that it will meet and exceed the requirements of the customers and delight them. Secondly, it will be cost optimized. It will be based on maths and science.
Okay.
And this will be enabled by building a world class supply chain team. So, our vision starts with customer centricity. And it's not a vision on the board
Mhm.
only or for just reading it when you walk into our office or in the supply chain function. It's a vision, first of all, that the entire landmark, not only the supply chain team, the
Mhm.
entire land leadership has contributed to. So, it's truly a vision that we live and breathe every word. Now,
Okay.
from a customer centricity perspective, we say that every action should be customer backwards. So it
Mm.
starts by saying, understand what the customer needs.
Mm.
So every of our supply chain managers and supervisors, so
Mm.
I'm here talking of more than 400, 500 people,
Mm.
uh, actually go out and understand the customer requirements firsthand. Yeah, we have two sets of customers.
Mm.
We have the e-commerce customers
Yeah.
and we have the retail customers. So what we do is, and in a way, the retail teams are an internal customer for supply chain because if we service the stores well, they can service the end customers well.
Mm. Mm.
So go and visit stores on a very regular basis,
Okay.
weekly, nightly, understand what is it that we can do better for the stores, for the end customers. We also meet end customers in e-commerce. Then we also have a delivery wing, which is for furniture delivery, where we go into the homes of customers and install the product. So there
Brilliant.
also, yeah, like if you would buy a bed or a wardrobe
Yeah.
from home or home center, we
Yeah.
would come to your home, our delivery teams will come and they will install that product for you in your
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
Now that's also a place where we interact with our customers, our managers, supervisors interact with our customers, understand the experience that we are giving, how can we better it. So we have, and it's not only in a good to do thing, we put mechanisms around it, which means that we measure feedback across all of it. And there's a
Okay.
number that's calculated. It's tracked
Okay.
quarter on quarter. So we track both inputs and outputs. People have to visit, do that. So that's on their calendars.
Okay.
Secondly, we also track the improvement and we are able to that we link inputs and outputs. So a lot of focus on the customer and our scores have improved by 15 to 25% in the last 1 year itself across the set of customers that we've spoken about. And even the tech that we are developing, a
Yeah.
lot of it is to enable and give a better customer experience.
Okay.
We've same day deliveries, and we were one of the first omni-channel retailers to launch same day delivery with apparel and the kind of products that we service.
All right.
So our speed is second to none. For example, my wife ordered a jacket. It's been a little cold here
Okay.
last days. So my wife ordered a jacket yesterday night at I think 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock in the night, and today 10 a.m. it was delivered. I just got a message. It's 10:30 right now. So
And you're
we
sure it's not because your wife ordered, right? It is the feedback of every customer which is there.
yes, absolutely. So actually, the account is also on my wife's name, not on my account.
Brilliant.
So
I mean, this is actually, we study in the operations management plan, do, check, act, cycle, but I think you brought it alive in your entire customer centricity journey within Landmark. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, and that exact feedback cycle loop that you're talking of, Jaya, is
Mm.
what we've set up. And it's not only a feedback loop, we also link it with inputs.
Okay.
So the right inputs you put in, you measure them.
Yeah.
You have the right outputs, you measure them,
Mm.
and then it loops back into input. So it's inputs, outputs, and a feedback loop. So it's not only
Yes.
just measuring output and loop feedback loop, it's also including the inputs. So we track
Exactly.
input because controllable, uncontrollable. So we focus on the controllables, but we've seen a very good link between the inputs and the outputs. So if you take care of the controllables well, the end outputs, which are really in a way uncontrollable, of course, improve a lot.
This is such a brilliant story, Ashish, because people talk about it. This is a genuine problem that a lot of people that we talk in supply chain, they actually face it. But it's brilliant to see how you're actually putting it in action and driving it. Now, this whole change that you are doing in customer centricity would have obviously entailed, building capability of the team, not just, of your senior leadership or the middle management, but actually building capability of the team from ground up, right? And I know that you're very passionate about, building people capability. Can you share with us some of the examples and stories and initiatives that you're actually doing in Landmark in that area, especially, how you're building that on a consistent basis for your team?
This is actually one of my favorite questions, and this
Okay.
is one of my passionate areas. So actually, and this is also one of the areas where it is typically underinvested in a lot of
Yeah.
places, because
Yeah.
typically people give importance to technology.
Mm.
People do give importance to customers because there's where revenue comes in from,
Yes.
and then they focus on process, and somewhere down the line people comes. That can tend to happen if you're not really focused on the people part. So from our perspective, we were very clear, and it's a part of the vision, saying the vision that we talk of will be enabled by building a world-class supply chain function
Mm.
by hiring, retaining,
Hmm.
developing the best talent. And
Okay.
to that extent, our so if you look at all the three pieces, hiring, retaining, and developing, we have a high bar for hiring. So we hire only the people who are truly have the right attitude and approach. We
Mm.
believe that we will hire for attitude and approach, and capabilities we can build. Because
And
if you try to,
which is
yeah,
how I've seen most of the strong leaders and visionary leaders, they always share the same thing that you cannot teach a person attitude. You can teach them skills, which is such a brilliant insight. But that is amazing to hear.
I, by the way, interact with every manager before the person is put into, and we lead a very large supply chain. A
Okay.
large part of my team time goes into interviewing people.
Okay.
So, because if the input is not good, then output can only be that good only.
Yeah.
So, so to that extent, a lot of focus on hiring the right set of people. Second piece comes is once the people come in, they should
Mm.
have an excellent experience within landmark supply chain.
Mm.
So, what does excite people is the kind of work that we're doing, and
Yes.
it's truly path breaking. You can search on LinkedIn. Our vision is out there. A number of details are out there. The work that we are doing in multiple areas is even featured in logistics, Middle East, and a lot of. So now a good amount of pull is there because we're doing a lot of strong and great stuff. But
Mm.
once people come in, the right set of people come in, every single person,
Mm.
all these 300, 400 people that I'm talking of, which are manager and above, every one of them has an individual development plan,
Okay.
which is customized to their strengths, their areas of improvements, their how will they overcome their areas of improvements, how will they build on their strengths, and
Mm-hmm.
what are the specific key focused initiatives that they will run.
Mm.
So it has
Mm.
four parts: strengths, weaknesses. How will they focus on their? How will they build on their strengths? How
Mm-hmm.
will they overcome their weaknesses? And lastly, what are the path-breaking projects that they will run, which
Okay.
will also build their own capability?
Yeah.
So, and it's very different from the KPI sheet or the annual goals. IDP is
Yeah.
a dependent document in itself. And the focus on this is so high that for the top 100 people in supply chain, I meet them at least 3 times a year. I try to meet them 4 times a year, but sometimes one of them, because of the peaks, gets off. So 3 times a year, I definitely want to meet them, and I meet them. And it's a one-on-one interaction, saying what are they doing, what. So there's a lot of focus around IDP.
Mm.
Then
Mm.
every person, we've set up it even on calendar saying every manager needs to do a one-on-one with their team every
Hmm.
week. Yeah. And you may be interacting with your reportee anyways multiple times in the day, but one-on-one is a personal time.
Yeah.
And what we say is at least 2 to 3 times in the month, it should be focused on performance, and at least once a month focused on how the person is trending, capabilities that the person is building. So the IDP has a linkage into a one-on-one at least once a month. So the other piece that we're doing right now, and it's still it is going to get launched, is we're launching a full supply chain academy.
Okay.
So me and my leadership team right now are busy recording training sessions, and our training session by the practitioners who spend 15, 20 years in supply chain. So
Okay.
they will be teaching on what are key skill sets of supply chain. So we've identified 50 key areas,
Okay.
and right now we are doing the training. So once we launch it, we are planning to launch it by end of February,
Okay.
in another from now. So it will be I think it will be great because one is it's coming from practitioners,
Yes.
and secondly, and practitioners who've been there, done that will be a lot. And secondly, it will be for our people, for our teams in our context. It's not
Correct.
that good quality content is not available. A lot of good content is available, but it needs to, the good quality content that's available is a little generic because it's targeted for a larger audience. Here
Mm-hmm.
it's for landmark considerations and
Mm-hmm.
within the landmark construct. So I believe that will be a game changer for us, because any new person who joins us or we promote a person from within, which is a focus area as well, there's a set of training programs that the person can go at their leisure, and it's recorded by people they know. They can
Okay.
even reach back to some of those people and say, you said this, I didn't understand that. So onboarding, regular trainings, and all of that is a big part of our work. And this is that, like I said, this I spent a lot of time on this answer, but I truly, really feel very passionately for this area.
And I think it must be creating a lot of engagement in the team, right? Because people must be seeing how their development and their growth is important for their manager and for you as a leader. Because I think people truly, in our insight, when a lot of the times people are leaving the organization, they're not really leaving organization. They're either leaving because they don't see a career path or they don't see that engagement with the larger leadership. So you're again bringing that alive for the team. And
Absolutely.
you talked
Sorry.
about your vision in the past, and you spoke about customer centricity. You spoke about, building the capability of the people ground up. I also know that, you also spoke about cost and efficient supply chain, cost effective supply chain. So how are you, sort of marrying these three things together, right? So at one end, there is customer centricity, then there is people, and then cost efficient. So what are some of the initiatives and steps you're taking to build that cost efficient mindset and actually a supply chain that delivers that?
First piece is we look at both the short and medium term and a long term from a cost standpoint.
Hmm?
And from a shorter term perspective, which is let's say 0 to 1.5 years, in that range, short and medium term actually, one is that every person in supply chain has a stretch target. And stretch targets are truly stretch, like a 30% reduction in cost in 1 year. And we really encourage people to take stretch targets. And once people have taken the stretch targets, we measure them not on so much on the output. So if I have taken, let's say, example of 30% cost reduction, we don't measure them. We of course measure the cost reduction. That's needless to say. But when we evaluate our people, we equally look at, has the person done a great effort or not. And
Okay.
because we have now set up all the mechanisms of weekly one-on-ones, IDPs, engagement, right till the senior most level in Landmark, we are able to measure the inputs as well very well, because
Hmm.
there are multiple touch points.
Yeah.
So even if someone was not able to achieve, let's say 30% cost reduction, was able to achieve a lesser number, let's say 20%, whatever that number is, doesn't matter too much. But if they've taken the right steps, we take care of the people well.
Okay.
That's one. So
Okay.
stretch targets being there, but we focus on the controllables. Is the
So
person making the right?
you're constantly focusing on the lead indicators and not just the lagging indicators, as they say. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Second is we've implemented KATA. KATA, see, if you look at various initiatives for improvement, so you have disruptive innovation at one side, then you have Six Sigma, you have KATA, you have Lean, you have Kaizen. These are the typical initiatives. And sometime in my life, I was Six Sigma black belt and lean person. So I understand continuous improvement well. So if you look at this, and I've done disruptive innovation also for some time. So I've worked a fair amount in the disruptive in the improvement area. But what I've seen, this is my experience, is Kata is a fantastic approach. It's not very well known to be, but it's a fantastic approach. It's the good part about Kata is it's simple enough to be implemented in operations by
Okay.
supervisors, managers, site leaders, and also it is structured enough to drive a good improvement.
Okay.
At times, kaizens and lean and all of that is good intentions. You don't really start from a top down target. Kata has looks at top down also and is also very focused on how the work is currently done and how do you improve it. So a
Mm.
lot of information is available on Kata on the internet. If you and it's actually a methodology that Toyota pioneered on,
Mm.
and
Mm.
it still runs even many years after it started. It's still giving Toyota regular benefits. For us, it's been the second year of Kata, and a lot of cost reduction has been driven with it. So Kata is the other approach, which is a structured approach for cost reduction.
So, can you share one or two simple stories that you have seen, with actually implementing Kata and how it has translated into, the actual translation of results, which is touch and feel and measurable by people on the, whether in your stores or in your e-commerce operation. Do you have one or two stories to share with us?
Let's take any example, and I'll make it a little generic so that people can fully relate to it. So Kata starts with setting a long-term goal, and then you set a 6 monthly goal. So 6 months from now, where
Hmm.
do you want to reach?
Hmm.
After that, you understand how the work is currently being done in a lot of detail.
Okay.
So it starts with a vision, which is really the long term. Then you define the 6 month goal. Then you define where do you want, where are you, how are you currently operating and where you currently are at.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then you define where do you want to be in 1 month from now. It's very logical. Long term, 6 months, where you currently are, and a 1 month target.
Yeah.
Now, after that, you spoke about Jaya about PDCA cycles. After that, you do PDCA cycles, and it's called PDCA only because the same PDCA approach is used, where you do experiments and you
Okay.
try to prove one by one what you need to overcome or what are the obstacles you want to overcome to reach your 1 month target. Once you reach your 1 month target, it may happen in 20 days, may happen in 40 days, but we call it a 1 month target. Then you reset the 1 month target and you slightly go closer to your 6 month target. And once you reach your 6 month target, you again reset your 6 month target in line with the vision. So it's a continuous improvement focused on delivering the next experiment.
Yeah.
And it's also a very strong coaching approach because here there is a learner who's the process owner in a way, and
Yeah.
then there's a coach who's their manager. And
Okay.
weekly, there's either a daily or a weekly cycle. Daily tends to be a little too much at times because it does take time to do an experiment, learn from it. So even if it's not a daily, twice a week is also a good frequency when the coach and learner meet up and discuss. So it's got very strong grounding in first is being the structured approach. It starts from your long-term vision to your 6 month target. And the second piece why it's successful is because it's based on understanding the current way of working in a lot of detail. And
All
so
right.
it's not in the air. It's based on how work is happening and then saying, these are three things I want to improve. Let me experiment one in the next 2 or 3 days. And if it works, you make that as a part of the process. Doesn't work, you go to your next experiment to make that improvement. So it allows experimentation on top of all of it. And it's based on manager and employee working together as a coach and learner. And it's a real coach and a learner feeling rather than a manager and a subordinate feeling. So
This is amazing.
I am a big fan of Kata, by the way, and
Okay.
it's given us very significant results. And our entire, if you walk into any landmark facility in operations, you would
Hmm.
see Kata, each one of them.
This is amazing, brilliant. I have seen a lot of GIPM and being a TPM brain facilitator myself in my earlier days. But to actually see that live and then drive results is a very, very powerful story that you're sharing with us.
By the
Um,
way, there's a lot of resources available on Kata, so it's not something which is under wraps. So you go search for Toyota Kata and you will get a ton of videos.
yes.
You search on Toyota Kata on any of the bookstores, you will get a lot of books. So it's very well known, and the books are so nice that you can read from it. And we read it all and we implemented. It's all done in house.
I agree, Ashish. I think the challenge in all of this is the discipline of implementation. I think people intuitively know what needs to be done. It's the discipline of implementation and doing it again day in and day out, which is what makes all the difference in organizations and driving long-term change, and also the change for people. Then, I'm really coming forward from there to, something else that you touched upon in the past, in this conversation was, the innovations that you are driving, the innovation and technological innovation that you're driving in Landmark. And, this is the age where you have chat GPT, you have AI. What are the kind of technology and innovation that you are, at this stage looking to drive within the Landmark business?
So I'll talk of what we've done, what and what's currently being is in the pipeline as well, and what we are thinking of, all the three areas. So we've over the last some time we've set up a true omni-channel capability from a tech and supply chain standpoint.
Okay.
So that's been a big change because the same inventory can now be used to service both customers. So the range availability for
Mm.
both e-commerce and retail becomes quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Second piece is in the automation space. I spoke about what we are investing, whether it's robots or the mega DC facility. Third is we are looking at implementing. We are right now implementing GTM, which is the tech platform,
Mm.
Global Trade Management, which will give us end-to-end visibility on a single platform. It actually, when let's say a shipment leaves from any supplier and it's on sea, regardless of the shipping line that it's on, we will have one system where we can track all the shipments.
Okay.
So, and it's a capability available in the market by the name of GTM. If you search, you will get that. So it's an end-to-end visibility tool. So
Mm-hmm.
it moves further on with the websites of your partners as well. Uh, then we are right now starting implementation of a few more tech initiatives. We are implementing a bunch of optimizers,
Mm-hmm.
simulators, digital twins. There's a list of at least 8 or 9 of them that we are right now implementing in various stages of implementation. Some of them have started yielding cost benefits and an improved customer experience. Some are in the pipeline. We are
Mm.
also starting to experiment with AI. You talked
Mm-hmm.
about chat and all of that. And some parts of the business are already using it.
Mm-hmm.
And we are also in supply chain trying with it to see what improvement. So the tech in itself, the focus on tech is very strong in Landmark supply chain and in Landmark overall. So a lot of work is happening from a digital perspective because we clearly realize unless we invest in the right tech and automation, and they're linked also,
Mm.
um, we won't be able to. We would only be a good supply chain of the past. We can't be a very strong supply chain, and in line with our vision, we want to
Mm.
be a world supply chain, and we really mean it.
So, you touched upon a theme which is, this is an age of constant disruption, a constant change. I mean, just today in the morning, I was reading about the various risks that business have, both in the short term and the long term. What do you see are, some of the biggest challenges for the supply chain in the next 10 years? I'm talking a fairly larger view over here, and not just the immediate challenges, but, when you look at it, what are the biggest challenges and how are you sort of preparing for it? What are the steps that you're taking to prepare for some of these big challenges of the future?
So I personally believe implementing a true agile supply chain is very critical from a future standpoint.
Mm.
And it's not a 1 year journey. People sometimes say COVID came, COVID's now really gone. It only was a COVID piece. Now we are fine. So see, COVID, we don't know what will come up in the future, but
Yeah.
supply chains being able to react fast to disruptions will be important. Those disruptions, or those, they may be positive disruptions also. The volume has suddenly taken off. Some of your products have become very successful in the market. Customers
Mm.
are loving it. That also, from a supply chain standpoint, is a positive change, and you should
Mm.
be able to react fast to that as well, and
Mm.
also to some of the negative changes, which I hope will not be there in the future. But life's life. So to that extent, The ability of the supply chain to react very fast and
Mm.
still give a fantastic customer experience in spite of positive or negative disruptions
Mm.
is going to be a key game changer. And it's not a 1 year journey, it's at least a 5, 7 year journey. 80% of it will take at least 3 years to implement. And I'll now talk about how we are thinking and what we are doing in this area.
Yeah.
Because supply chain has become a buzzword,
Yes.
and what to do with it is always a question.
Yes.
If you logically think through also, if you have to react fast to changes, the first piece is you should come to know of the changes fast.
Yeah.
So every supply chain should have end-to-end data visibility.
Okay.
And like the initiatives like GTM and a few other piece level tracking and stuff like that, what we are trying to do and we are implementing right now, will build a pipeline of
Yeah.
data, which is truly the real-time data. The
Mm.
second piece is reporting has to be automated.
Mm. Yeah.
Supply chain managers don't have to spend time in making Excel sheets. They should spend time in analyzing the output
Yeah.
and taking actions.
Mm.
So end-to-end visibility and reporting engine sitting on top of it on
Mm.
that data to give
Mm.
real-time insights. So we are right now really enhancing our control towers, so to say,
Okay.
which is how do you sense what's happening in the market and how do you react fast.
Okay.
And as we said, what are early warning signs? First is what are predictive
Mm.
aspects, what are early warnings, and what are key outputs. If you
Mm.
catch something at a predictive stage fast
Mm.
enough, hopefully the impact to end outputs or SLAs and performance should not happen.
Yes.
If you don't catch the predictive one, you can catch the early warning sign. At
Yeah.
least you have 3, 4 days available to react fast.
Yep. Yeah.
So we are looking at that, saying first is data visibility, then reporting control towers automated. That's the piece on data. Then is building the right capabilities that people are looking at the data in the right way and they're
Mm.
taking the right decision at the fast speed.
Mm.
So that's a people capability aspect to it. Then the other piece is if you look at all disruptions, the manager time also becomes a key bottleneck.
Mm. Mm.
Let's say COVID came, many managers were out of action
Yeah.
or they just do get stressed. So
Mm.
how can you automate some of the decision making, which we call as hyper automation? Which are the processes that you can fully automate? And these are not automated facilities. That's a separate part of elastic logistics. Here I'm talking of processes. Simple things like which packages to put in which vehicle. Now, one way is someone is doing the routing with their own on an Excel sheet. Second is, do you have a routing solution?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
a lot of tech and process work together, and how do you automate that piece, which is what we call as hyper automation. Then is building the right automation from a physicality standpoint. How do you
Okay.
make supply chain? See, people will always be there in supply chain,
Mm.
but getting people more and more is going to be difficult and comes at a higher cost, and availability also goes down. In like the mega DC that we built was a big asset for us during COVID.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
For people they use comparable is much lesser. So we
Mm.
could
Mm.
manage a much smaller workforce, which we had. Rather than managing 5,000 people or 10,000 people in a facility, it's very few people there. So,
Mm.
and it has to be looked at from a long-term perspective. Automation at times doesn't make sense from a short-term perspective,
Yes.
but look at it from a capability perspective as well. Lastly, something that we call as elastic logistics, which
Okay.
is say, how do you build your partnerships and relationships? How do you always know things like if my volume really surges up,
Mm.
uh, which is the facility that I can hire at a short term? So you're not investing behind it today, but you are keeping your relationships live. You've got very strong, you should need to have very strong relationship with your vendor partners. So that
Mm.
if a decision comes, you will be taken care of by them.
Yeah.
And so those 4, 5 things, and these things take time to do.
Yes.
Can't be done in a day. And even if you remove the disruption part to it, it's still good because you're building the right capabilities.
Yeah.
So of course disruptions will be there. So to me, that's the big deal that a lot of leaders are focusing on today and will need to focus on. Because end of the day, if supply chain doesn't perform well, it's hard to reach the customer and keep the customer happy.
True, true. I completely agree. Again, I can see that, you have this very clear theme that you control the inputs and the outputs tend to follow. So very powerful examples, Ashish. And, you are also a customer facing business. One of the key challenges that are constant in everybody's mind is climate change and, building supply chains that are sustainable for the future. Are there any specific actions that Landmark is taking and building sustainability in its future growth plans?
Being one of the largest retailer of homegrown brands,
Hmm,
sustainability is really key to our business.
hmm,
In this journey of being a responsible retailer, we need to reduce the impact on climate and positively impact people. So it's called sustainability is both people and the impact on environment. So a lot of our DCs are solar powered, like Omega DC is solar powered, use of recycled cartons, and all of that is anyway a lot of companies are doing.
hmm.
Uh, so in short, we're doing all the steps and and it's a large program that we're leading right now across sustainable products, sustainable supply chains, and sustainable customer journeys as well.
Hmm.
So this in itself is a topic for a full podcast. A lot of work is happening within Landmark, and I think we should have a separate discussion and a full discussion. This in itself, we can talk of all what we said, and it's a very enriching journey for us.
Thank you. No, I completely agree. I think this whole idea of building sustainability and bringing into the retail supply chains is a topic in itself. So I will certainly be inviting you for some of our discussions on that. We are coming towards the end of this particular podcast, and I know that you have a coach and a mentor as a part of you. So when one engages with you, a coach and a mentor sort of comes through. What are some of the key messages that you have for people that are entering supply chain or are thinking of making, or even making a shift within supply chain in their career? Any key messages for them at this stage?
So first thing is supply chain is a great career to build on.
Mm,
And there is always so much to do in supply chain, and I feel very passionately about it because the impact, positive or the otherwise, of supply chain is very high.
mm,
And finally, the customer, when they get the product in their hand, that's when the aha moment happens. And unless supply chain works well, that won't happen. And
yes.
customers are anyway key to business. So supply chain is a great area to build your career on. So people who are still undecided which way they can go, in my life, I chose supply chain over the other options that I had.
Mm,
So that
mm,
secondly, I think you should always work with a great company
mm,
because like the kind of culture that we have in Landmark
mm.
is I would proudly say second to none.
Yeah.
Uh, so working and you experience culture on a daily basis.
Mm, mm, mm.
So having the right long-term focus like Landmark has, having the right leadership teams that Landmark has, all of that builds so much amount of positivity and the right environment in which you can deliver. Now, third piece is now let's come to supply chain in specific. So I think if you want to be doing well in supply chain and want to really one day lead supply chain for large company, some of the things that make sense that you should focus on is one is ensure you have enough experience in the area of running operations. A lot of time that people see a lot of people who are fresh and new think supply chain is a lot about running projects, initiatives, innovation. By the way, all of that is true, but supply chain is equally about having a very strong shop floor experience.
Yes.
Because any leadership role that you would look at sometime down your life, and you can think of yourself as, let's say, the CEO of a company or an owner of a company, and think of you're hiring the next head of supply chain. The first thing that maybe you would look at is whether the person can run the business. Has the person got the experience of running the business, the nuts and bolts? And
Yeah.
by the way, that's a dynamic field. People believe that it's daily job. No, it's very dynamic because you're
Yeah.
touching customers every day. So that's one. Second is ensure you have a good experience in the planning aspect also. So one is core operations, shop floor, running warehouses, running transportation, e-commerce, running and being at the forefront. As you're leading a site, leading a team, but working in the customer delivery side. The second is planning experience. planning experience sometime in your life. The third piece is how do you build teams is a key skill set that everyone needs to develop on.
Yeah.
Because the other piece that's very important is very soon, when you start afresh, it's you, your capability. Very soon that shifts to saying, can you lead a team well? Can you
Yeah.
build a strong team? Can you take care of people? Do people like working with you?
Yeah.
Do you hold the right bar? It's not only good, but holding the right bar, honest discussion, honest feedback, all of that. So ability to build strong teams is again one skill set that you don't one day land into, you have to build it. So initially the new people they'll get one reportee, then two,
Yeah.
three, five, 10, and then it increases. But being able to build that strong team members along with you is very important. Lastly, the other 2 points that you should think of when you build a career is do you have you done something which allows you to think outside the box?
Mm, mm.
So whenever you get and these opportunities don't you can't plan for them at times, or if you get an opportunity, always grab it with both hands because they come a few times when you get a chance to do something truly disruptive.
Mm,
So
mm.
that skill set somewhere in your life you need to develop. Lastly, learn technology well. This is the time when for example we hire people in supply chain, regardless of the role that we hire, we look at, are you technology literate? Can you do basic programming? Here we're not saying high end programming, you don't have to write IT systems,
Mm,
but can you
mm.
do your own personal work by Python, Java, Power BI, whatever are the basics of, and what used to be Excel in my time is now all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So learn technology well because that
Exactly.
piece will help you be more efficient. So those are 4 or 5 things that I can think of. So first is get an experience of shop floor operations, get experience of planning, focus on building a strong team, ability to think outside the box, and get your technology piece right. Understand technology a little bit. These days, all the colleges teach you. Only thing
Yeah.
you need to take a lot of interest and try to implement what you learned. So that's how I think of, yeah, careers in supply chain.
Thank you, Ashish. This was very, very incisive and to the point. I really appreciate you because I think you've taken a very complex function and broken it down into bits that, really get people excited and sort of bring them together in a way that they understand and move forward. I wish you all the best and the teams in Landmark in achieving your vision for the future. I'm also looking forward to come there and actually visit this fantastic DC of yours and actually visit it in person one of the days. But thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, Jaya. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. Have a good day too.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to go to www.alcottglobal.com and click the podcast button for all the show notes of the interview. Also, subscribe to our mailing list to get our latest updates first. If you're listening to a streaming platform like iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher, we would appreciate the kind review. 5-star works best to keep us and the production team motivated and happy. And of course, share it with your friends. I'm most active on LinkedIn, so do feel free to follow me. And if you have any suggestions on what to do and who to invite next, don't hesitate to drop me a note. And if you're looking to hire top executives in supply chain or transform your business, of course, contact us as well to find out how we can help you. Thank you.